You speak as if the set of cleanup volunteers and the set of rioters are disjoint. How much overlap is there? What does it mean if the overlap is significant? That would be fascinating if it was actually the same people, and that would change what I think is going on a lot, but I see no evidence at all that there is any overlap. In fact, I think I counted 11 different volunteers that we saw today. And one of the last two, as we were walking back to our car, was actually wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. And I commented to you.
Yep.
And I said, wow, that's a level. Oh, there's a spider on the table crawling up your
Oh
arm.
my God.
It's probably in your shirt now.
All right. I'm cool with this. I like spiders.
I don't.
It's on my sleeve, though. We're good. Let me know if you see it again.
Great. I'm the one wearing loose pants. I'm going to crawl up my leg. Okay. It's a fast moving. So it came from here. So maybe it's done with me. Okay. There's someone, one of these volunteers was wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. And I said to you, that is a remarkable level of cognitive dissonance to be here cleaning up from the riots and then be proclaiming something that, really, I don't feel like any of the stuff that's going on at the literal rioting and looting level in Portland right now is actually Black Lives Matter. It's completely tightly joined, and it's confused. The anarchists and the looters and the vandals and everything have confused people and want that to be their branding, but I don't think it mostly is. But still, to be like, oh, I'm for this thing that claims to be doing this destruction, and now I'm out here cleaning out the destruction, seems like a level of confusion that I wouldn't normally expect. But really, no one else that I saw, was wearing any of the branding. But also, these mostly were either young, like high school, and like cleanly coiffed and sort of almost like preppily dressed, if that's even a thing anymore, like high schooler and college age kids. And then like middle-aged, there were a couple of middle-aged Asian women, and it's not the same people who are out there.
Yeah,
we weren't out there last night, but we've been out there in other times, and it was totally different from the people who were hanging out outside their tents, feeling being however they're being. Like, it's not them either who's doing any of the cleanup. I don't know if they were involved in the rioting either.
Zero reason to expect overlap.
Yeah.
I do wonder, given your point about who was doing cleanup, if something has caused those with a public service requirement in high school or something to end up.
There were two different sets of t-shirts that I saw on the volunteers, as if there are two different organizations, NGOs of some sort, non-governmental organizations of some sort, who are sending out people to clean up.
Yeah.
And the younger people, I don't remember. I'm going to have the pictures, but I don't remember offhand. I think they were wearing the one type of shirt, and then a bunch of the other people wearing something else. So there might be.
Yeah. I will say,
there might be that.
One of the things I didn't capture it this morning, but one of the things that disturbs me most about the wanton destruction is how frequently things like trash cans are destroyed. And I think the point is, the instinct is to turn Portland into a mess. Mm-hmm. It is completely antithetical to the impulse to clean up after the mess, right? So the idea, anybody who likes Portland to be a nice place wants there to be trash cans that get emptied, because then there isn't trash all over the place. So, do you want homeless people to have a better quality of life? Trash cans contribute to that.
Yes.
Right? So, there's just no argument that this is complex. These are people who just see structure as antithetical and have set about destroying it, and those who would set about cleaning it up, whatever their impulse, it is different.
Yeah. So just a few comments here, and several, and we'll riff. One person says, I went downtown for the first time in over a year, and my heart broke because I saw what they've done to my city. It's childlike, misdirected anger.
Yep.
I saw your street photos and felt I was watching guilty Portland parents cleaning up after their poorly raised and riotous offspring. Are they enablers? If a rioter breaks a window in the forest and no one is around to fear it, are all cops still bastards?
That is philosophical.
Portland might not have all its ducks in a row, but its cats better get in line. This is a little worrying. I just wanted everyone to be aware that the insanity on the left has started screenshotting super chats and using it as a weapon against the talent. I don't know what the evidence for that is, but that's not good.
I don't even know what that would mean, but it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, I mean, I see
Oh, I get it.
I
If
see very
bad
little in
stuff
our super
happens in
chats that
the
are
chat,
bad, but
okay, got
um,
it.
please start a movement to stop cleaning up after riots so people deal with the consequences. Merci, love you. Former story time here. I'm not sure what story time is. And then 2 more, and then we'll talk about any of these we feel like talking about. I appreciate your covering the riots in downtown PDX, Portland. As a resident of downtown, I find that most Portlanders are willfully ignorant of what is really going on in our city. Yeah, I think so. One more. Why does the left media and Black Lives Matter martyr men who have been criminally violent towards women and then never mention the charges? And that's, a little bit different. And so let's definitely get to that one. But anything from all of those interesting and diverse comments about Portland. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about it, and I always appreciate hearing from people who are well familiar with Portland who are here.
Yeah.
And, we actually, was it like 4 or 5 people that recognized
Recognized
us
us
when we were down
downtown,
there
yeah.
today. And that was intriguing. Of course, people who are interested in what's happening to Portland who live here are likely to have gone down and likely, right? So, it's certainly not a random sampling, but
No, but when we moved here, so getting recognized as a phenomenon of life, pretty rare, but Portland was the place it used to happen least when we moved here,
Yeah.
least of anywhere we traveled. And so I do think people are tuning in more locally, which is great. The issue of people not really knowing what's going on in Portland, even people who live here, is, I think, huge. And it's not an accident.
Yeah.
Part of it is COVID has meant that people who might be downtown more frequently don't go. But there has been a concerted effort, which I've watched on the Portland subreddit, to portray reports of mayhem as false, as, slanderous.
Yeah.
And they're not, right? The mayhem is real. And in any case, there's also an instinct to look away, right? For those, especially people who initially were excited about Black Lives Matter because they didn't read the fine print, right? Those people have been rationalizing ever crazier, ever more disconnected behavior. And it does result in this sense of like, why are we not, why is Andy Ngo the source of information on what's going on with the rioters, right? Now, I like Andy quite a bit, but the point is everybody should be fascinated by what's happening in a major American city, and instead the press is complicit in not reporting it. And so what we have is,
so you don't mean, why is Andy Ngo doing this? Like, why aren't there 20 Andy Knows?
Right.
So that we can get, we literally, our 17-year-old son's friend happens to be there last night, and we're showing video from him, why is that where we're getting video? Why isn't there actually journalism being done?
Right. There's no journal. And in fact, I went
because we're not journalists. We're not pretending to be journalists.
Right. Yeah. It's not our job. But but the fact is there is a journalistic vacuum surrounding what's taking place. And what is reported in such strange ways, right? So I went looking for information on the mural that was painted on the Apple Store, because I wanted to make sure that Apple hadn't commissioned it, which I was sure they hadn't, but I wanted to make certain.
Yeah.
And if you look at the reports, they're deliberately ambiguous, right? This person chose to effectively graffiti the wall that Apple had put up to cover the broken windows. Now, it happens they did an artistically cogent job.
Right.
But that shouldn't matter. The point was, maybe we decide that we like this mural, but the point is somebody still decided to violate the law and put up a mural that spoke to their beliefs and not our beliefs, not Apple's belief, right? They chose to spray paint a wall. And anyway, in the reports, you have to read really carefully to figure out what actually happened, how that mural ended up there. So anyway, yes, there's a completely bizarre field of distortion around all the stories.
Probably the people who are in or around Portland who are watching this have done this, but I actually encourage people to spend time downtown in particular. We haven't gone back at night since the regular riots stopped. I just went down maybe a couple times, and I think you went down 1 or 2 times more than that. But I have gone downtown many, many times in the daytime. And depending on if something just happened the last night, I may park up actually at the Japanese Garden, which is a fair ways away, and walk down, just so I don't have to worry about, like, is my car going to be vandalized,
Yep.
by the time I get back to it. And it's always changing, and it's fascinating every time. It's an education every time. For a while there in the end of the summer, if I got downtown by, between 9 and 10:30 in the morning, I always saw shopkeepers out on the street, cleaning up the mess from the night before. And it's not that shopkeepers don't normally make sure to keep the sidewalks in front of their stores particularly clean, but this was a different level of cleanup that they were being required to do effectively in order to present a welcoming storefront that really should not have fallen on them, right? Especially in these times when so much has already fallen on small businesses. And I will say, I hate this trope. I've always hated it since long before the pseudo left has been using it. But I'm just so tired. I just can't do anything. I'm just so tired. Like, most people use this and then stop doing all the stupid things you're doing and get some rest, and then do the things that you actually want to do and stop using this as an excuse. Right now, people are legitimately exhausted because of COVID. Like, people are legitimately exhausted, and I do think that there are some number of people who, if they went downtown and they saw it, they would know something different than what they currently know, but they just cannot bring themselves to, and it is about 13 months of unprecedented pandemic horribleness at all levels.
Well, I think there's an added factor. I've always been struck by the odd phenomenon of being embarrassed on someone else's behalf. Right? When you see somebody do something embarrassing and you feel embarrassment on their behalf, and your instinct is to kind of obscure what they're doing, and and I have the sense that this is so,
because we believe in the dignity of human beings at some level,
right? And
right?
this is shameful, right? As a Portlander, I want to be proud of Portland, and there's a lot that's marvelous here, but I'm ashamed of what Portland is doing. I'm ashamed that Portland is allowing this to happen,
right?
And so I think many people who don't have our role are looking away because it makes it less bad, except it doesn't. What it means is that actually they're getting hoodwinked, that you've got a lot of people who are basically just misanthropic. And to allow the misanthropes to rule, to create a bailout fund and all of this, it'd be hard if you looked at what they're doing, if you looked at what they spray paint on the walls, right? It's hard to imagine what would move you to want them bailed out. Right? I want them to suffer enough that they stop.
Yeah. They're advocating murder.
Yes, they're openly advocating murder with a literal smiley face.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and so what finally on this topic, at least for this set of questions, why do we see the martyring of men who have actually been engaged in violence against women? I feel like we've talked about this a little bit. Certainly we have, but I think we've talked about it some on air before. And this is one of the things for me that just sort of tears the facade off.
Yeah.
It's like you don't care about women,
right?
Like, you don't care about fill in the blank. Like, you don't care about any number of these things that you say you care about, unless it serves your particular goal in the moment, and then you can make a claim that that's what you care about. But no, it's true that there have been a number of men who have died at the hands of police, who have been separately engaged in criminal violence against women, there was one New York Times front page story, I think, which just spun the story of this guy. I can't remember any of this because I don't know which story it was, but just buried what should have been the lead, which was actually here this person had been criminally violent.
Just the guy who
I don't remember.
Okay, well, we'll stay away from it.
Yeah.
The particulars. I think I know which story you're talking about, and yes, the contrast between the actual story of the individual and the valorized version of the story that was presented to the public was amazing.
We kind of hate there are wrongful deaths at the hands of police, for sure. we can stand against that strongly and fiercely. Why would we valorize criminal behavior?
Well,
Why would we do that?
so I want to spin it a little bit,
Okay,
or not spin. I want to
twist
look
it,
at it differently.
turn it something.
Here's the problem, and Eric has done a thing where he's called the phenomenon optical lynchings, where basically the point is if something happens that can be portrayed as the equivalent of a lynching, then it is grabbed onto, irrespective of whether the facts actually add up, right? And so if it looks like a cop has murdered somebody, then that's good enough, because what we're really looking for is something symbolic. We're not looking for a factual case. The point, though, is in a world where you've got people, let's say that they earnestly believe that police-based, racially motivated injustice at the hands of police is a rampant problem, right? They are looking for examples to point out what we all know is taking place. And the point is, how many of these examples have to turn out to be not at all the way they were portrayed for us to conclude the obvious thing, which is that the case in which a truly innocent person, a truly unarmed person, is gunned down in cold blood, right, is actually rare, right? And so I guess
of those cases, the number of those cases that have a racial component is more rare.
Right. So I think the point is the question is actually pointing at the elephant in the room, which is it is the rarity of cases that are truly clean and in which there is no ambiguity like this that causes the cases which are so compromised by the behavior of the individual who's being valorized to be so prominent.
Yeah, I mean, we probably don't want to spend a lot of time here. There's a messiness here, of course, because I'm reminded in that argument of argument that it's hard to bring a rape case against a guy if his victim wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
Right. If she, especially if she was a sex worker, but if she simply, had a lot of hookups, if she, like all of these things, right? And the fact is that rape should be rape, with the understanding that a whole lot of things are being called rape that aren't actually rape. But like rape is rape, and it shouldn't matter whether how the rest of the world views you and whether or not that should have happened to you.
Well, I mean, I agree with your point, but I think the thing is there's a difference between somebody whose record is imperfect, in which case I do think it is fair to ask the question, what disadvantages resulted in the person's criminal behavior. On the other hand, rape is a special crime, right? Abuse against an individual, right? Sexual assault against women is a crime against an individual.
Yeah.
And the point is that if the allegations are true, then the point is, okay, this person you're valorizing actually harmed somebody egregiously, and they had a choice. It wasn't that they stole to feed a family. They actually engaged in sexual violence against an individual human. They don't deserve to be valorized. This is a kind of crime for which there is no excuse.
Yeah,
and so,
it doesn't justify police violence, but there's certainly no excuse for valorization of the individual.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly.